Hi creators, welcome or welcome back to Academic Phoenix Plus. I'm Monica and I am your guide to your creative journey. Today we're going to whip up something absolutely perfect, a cat-themed coffee mug.
I'm also going to show you how to get access to an affordable Maya, the Maya Indie license.
Now a little bit of fun fact about myself. I always wanted to own a cat cafe, but that's not going to happen anytime soon, so why don't we manifest this virtually? Let's dive into Maya and bring my cat cafe to life, starting with this cute little coffee cup. This tutorial is brought to you by the amazing sponsor Autodesk,
The design and make company.
As you've seen in my videos, I'm a huge fan of Maya, especially their modeling tools. Whether it's for modeling, rigging, animation, shading, or lighting, Maya has got it all. Maya is especially powerful in the animation side. Have you seen the latest releases in the animation pipeline? They're awesome. Yep. You're going to get a lot of cat puns in this video. So whether you're a beginner or just in the mood to create something cute, this tutorial is for you. Let's get started to see what cool tools Maya has to offer as we model this cute coffee cat. This is a mug, so let's go ahead and get started with a typical cylinder. Let's remove that cap to a 0 and then of course shape it to the shape that I want and start extruding. It's always easier to extrude the bottom and the top with just one face versus 10 faces. Then I'm going to extrude the inside of the mug, Control E, and scale it in. And also add an extra edge at the top just because I do want this mug to be very curved. I don't want it to have straight edges or anything. I want it to be nice and soft and cute. So I have the basics there. I'm going to be hitting number 3, which is the smooth preview, consistently to see what exactly needs to look better. And I need supporting edges at the top, and now I'm going to start working at the bottom of the mug. Now the bottom of the mug, I wanted to have a little bit of curvature, and soft selection did not work out as well as I wanted to, so instead I'm going to manually make the model smaller as it goes in. So again, I'm trying to get this to be a nice soft edges for my mug. All right, that's looking pretty good, but nothing special. Let's go ahead and make this into a cat. So by turning on symmetry, we're going to change it to object X, and whatever happens on the left side happens on the right side. I'm going to select my faces, and then I am going to extrude. And if you have any issues, just go ahead and turn off the object X symmetry, and then lift. Turn it back on, and then you can do the modeling. Now, another little fun trick is that you can change the pivot point. So as you can see, I'm trying to scale it, but it can be a little bit of a problem if my manipulator is actually facing the wrong direction. So if you hit D on your keyboard, you can change the direction of the manipulator and then make your adjustments there, which is exactly what I did. All right, it's starting to look like little cat ears, but I do want to shape it a little bit more. So I'm going to be grabbing some vertices of the side, and I'm going to be scaling. Again, I'm going to be using that technique of rotating the pivot point and then scaling it to make my life a little easier. I'm going to be shaping it because I do want these little ears to be cute and soft edged. Now notice at the top view that because of the rotations and things like that, it got moved around, so I'm just going to go ahead and manually move them. Now again, my symmetry is on, so whatever happens on the left side happens on the right side. And there you go. How cute! I do want to make it a little softer. I'm going to choose soft select by clicking on the letter B and then move the little ears backwards just to give it a little bit more shape. Next is going to be the cute little paws at the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and grab a sphere and rotate it 90 degrees. This is going to be a little bit scaled back and then just placing it at the bottom of the mug. Now the biggest issue that I had with this one, which seems really funny, but the biggest issue is that I really wanted to figure out where's the best place to put the paws and still make it look cute. So it was like, should I make them closer? Should I make them further away? I really debated about this for a while, as you can see by how I'm doing this. And then I finally figured it out. So this is too far, right? So that I didn't think it looked that great. So I wanted to make sure that the paws were a little bit closer. Another trick that I do is I placed the sphere on the mug, I group it, then I duplicate that group, and that puts the manipulator at the center of the pivot, at the center of the grid. And then if I change it to a -1, it will actually basically mirror it. So it's really easy way of doing one side and then mirroring it to the other side. Now, one of the things I forgot to do was create a project. So go to File, Project Window, and call it something so I can save it and I can place it in the correct, exactly where Maya needs to find it, in the Scenes folder. All right, I'm going to smooth my mesh because, again, when I press the number 1, that's the low poly, and when I press the number 3 is the preview, and when I export it to Textured and Substance Painter, I want to make sure that it's as high quality as possible. Another fun fact about me is that I am a full-time faculty member, and my students have a consistent question for me, which is, how can I continue using Maya after I've graduated? They have so much experience with the software, and it seems like a waste of time to learn a new software just to reach the same level. Well, I have some good news. Autodesk offers an indie license for Maya and 3ds Max. This is not a light version, it's the full software with all the features that you love, just like the regular Maya. This indie license is perfect for new grads, helping you transition from students to professionals. It does come with a price tag. It is $305 a year. However, compared to a studio, which is $1,875 a year, it's a great investment to yourself. Maya will prepare you to become a freelancer or land a job in the studio because it has all the tools you need to build and create anything you can dream of, such as my cat cafe.
For more information, take a look at the Autodesk link below, and let's go ahead and continue with creating this cat theme coffee mug.
It's going to be the handle of the mug, and I am going to give myself extra edges, and then using the curve tool, I'm creating the shape of the handle. I'm going to select some faces and of course press that fancy button that turns anything into a circle, and I'm also going to do the same thing for the bottom because I am going to attach it. Then I'm going to select those faces, shift select the curve, and then extrude, and just like that you have geometry. So I thought it was a little bit too thick, so I'm going to go back, undo, Control Z, my favorite tool, and then do it again. Again, select those faces, extrude, and then give yourself more divisions, and now you have a face. Now this looks like it's attached, but it's not. So I'm going to go in, and it's a little tricky, but I'm going to go in and delete those interfaces because I am planning to actually merge the mug's handle onto the side of the cup. So I'm going to struggle a little bit here as I try to get the perfect camera angles so I can grab some faces and hopefully I don't erase anything else. Once I have that, I'm going to shift right click and target weld, and that means that I can take one vertex to the other and start welding. Got a little hard to see with all the geometry, so now I'm actually going through and welding it using the wireframe. So lots of tools from Maya to use to make your workflow efficient, and there you go. Let's center to pivot, delete the history of freezer transformations, and let's UV map. So this one's a relatively easy object to UV map. I tried automatic just to see what would happen and did it not so great. So this is the bottom of the mug, and I'm going to be planar mapping it. I'm going to select my specific faces that I want, and making sure in the UV editor that I don't select faces along the mug, just the bottom. Then I'm going to project using Y, and then I'm going to unfold. This is the inside of the mug. That one doesn't really matter too much. And now it's going to be the rest of the body. Now what's nice about the UV editor is you can just select the faces that you want, but notice that I'd also selected the handle, and I'm not ready for that. So I'm going to go ahead and remove those faces for the handle, and I am going to be using a cylindrical map. All right, now again, we don't really get to see the inside, so I'm going to go ahead and cut the top of the mug, and now I've got them all separated. There we go. Now the rest of these faces is in fact the handle, and I am going to be using to stitch together the UVs because it's too many pieces and they do belong together. So I'm going to go ahead and grab those edges, stitch them together, and my goal is to keep the seam somewhere where I don't really see it very well. In this particular case, the seam is going to be in the back because no one's really going to see the back of the mug, everyone's going to see the front. So it's put in the seam at the back of the mug is probably the best way to go. So again, I'm trying to reduce the amount of edges that I have or seams, and of course, as always, unfold, and now I have my handle UV mapped. All right, next is going to be the little paws. This is going to be pretty easy. It's going to be a planar map. Choose the correct one and then unfold. In this case, it's going to be Z. So do it again. UVs, planar map, unfold. All right, next is going to be textile density. My map set is going to be about 1024. Click on get, click on set, and then everything is the same grid size, which is great. And then I scroll down to layout, click on layout, and it forces everything into the 0 to 1 space. So I decided that I wanted that edge not to be at the front of the mug. I'm going to go ahead and put it right next to the handle so people don't really get to see it. And now I'm going to be manipulating the UVs because I feel like I could do a better job than what Maya did. The biggest thing for me is to make sure that I have overlapping UVs for the paws since they're the exact same paw. And I also want to make sure that the mug itself gets plenty of room. So the front of the mug needs a lot of room. So you're going to see me play a little bit of Tetris. So Tetris song. Ti, 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 ti. And here I want to make sure that the paws are actually overlaid together really well. So I'm going to rotate them and I'm going to move them. I'm also checking to make sure they're facing the right way. The last thing I want is the UVs to be reversed so that you see how you see the U that it's facing the correct way. If they're not facing the correct way and I put a paw, I'm going to get like unpredictable results. So I'd rather just make sure that everything's going to fit really well. So I'm going to go ahead and align them as best as I can, but lucky for me, there is a button in the Arrange a Layout section called Stack Shells, and they will stack it exactly on top of one another. So yay! Double check to make sure there's no overlapping UVs. That one has a little bit of overlapping UVs, so I am rotating it to make sure it doesn't overlap. And then of course this one needs as much space as possible, and my UVs are basically done. Hooray! Just like that. Alright, don't forget to save. Save often, everybody. Save multiple versions too. Alright, so what I'm going to do next is select my objects and group them together. Then I duplicate it, and this one, the high poly one, is going to be smooth. Remember, I'm looking at a smooth preview in Maya, and it's really important that you're looking at it in the number 1 on your keyboard, which is the actual model, which is what's going to be imported in Substance Painter. So I'm going to go ahead and double check my UVs, combine the mesh, save again just in case, and then export it as an OBJ. Going into Substance Painter, let's select our model. I'm going to choose 2048, and there it is. All right, first thing you do in Substance Painter is bake some maps. So make sure you choose your map size. Mine's going to be 2K. I'm going to go to ambient inclusion, curvature, as well as thickness, and make sure that it's the secondary rays is as high as they can be, and go ahead and bake. Yay, there it is. All right, now I'm ready for action. I'm going to be painting this, and I'm going to go to my layers. Don't forget to change the title up at the top to cat mug or whatever title you want. And in this case, it's going to be the new fill layer is going to be a little bit of a warm yellow color, which is what I expect the mug to be. And then I'm going to create another one, and this one is going to be black. And it's also going to increase the height as well as reduce the roughness, a little bit of metallic to make it look pretty, and increase the height again, because this is going to be where the details of the cat is going to be. Now, unfortunately, symmetry didn't work, so I'm going to have to draw everything on my own, which turns into an interesting... I depend on symmetry a lot. You're going to find out how much I depend on symmetry, but that's okay. I created a black mask, and I am ready to start painting. I'm going to go to the brushes, and I'm looking for a basic hard brush. I'm going to use my brackets to make it bigger, and there's one eyeball. I feel like the height needs to be a lot bigger, so let's go ahead and reduce the roughness, increase the height, and I just want to make sure it's nice and shiny. All right, draw the other eyeball. So far, so good. And now we're going to start adding the cute little nose. Now, there's two ways you guys can paint in Substance Painter. You can paint it using the UVs, or you can paint it using the 3D model. So that's the magic about Substance Painter, is that you can do either or. And in this case, I found it easier to paint on the UVs. So here I am laying out the little nose, and then I am going to go ahead and start drawing the little mouth. Again, symmetry would have been a lot easier, so you're going to see me struggle on the left side significantly, trying to get it to match as best as possible. Draw two little dots. Still feel like it's not exactly right. Let me just kind of clean it up a little bit, and I feel like I've got the little mouth. Now I'm drawing, of course, whiskers. You can't have a cat without whiskers. So here are my little stylized whiskers. Then I thought it was really cute, but then I decided that, I think like the nose is a little too big. I'm trying to make this look extra cute, so I'm going to make it even smaller. So I'm going to go in, grab my little hard brush, zoom in a little closer, and start painting away. There we go, a tiny little nose. And now I am going to once again struggle in painting the mouth, but I made the brush a little bit smaller so I can start painting it. That's when I get frustrated. Scribble, scribble, release some frustration, and then move forward. All right, it's coming along though. I just want to make sure it looks cute. 2 little dots to make it a little cuter, and there we go. Next is the paw. I have a graphic of a paw, and as long as that paw is the color white, then it will show up. So I choose as an alpha. I just drag it in, choose it as an alpha, and then I'm going to use it to create the paws on the mug. We're going to use what's called the projection. It's the 4th tool down, and what I'm going to do is look for that texture, drag it in, and then I can just paint in the paw. Now remember, I have overlapping UVs, so what happens on the left side happens on the right side, and just like that, we have 2 paws. I don't have to do it twice. All right, next is going to be the ears. I'm going to go in and paint in, and you can see that it looks a little faded, and that's because my grayscale wasn't 50% gray. So let's change that back into 1, which is white, and then I can paint it in. There we go, my cute little designs, and now I have a little ears for my cat. Next is going to be the handle. I'm going to go ahead and paint it in. Again, I thought I wanted it to be a little bit faded black, so I'm painting it in. And then I changed my mind and went back to full-on white color so that I could see the black as best as possible. So I have to make sure that it makes sense. The design looks good, but I'm only going to see the front of the the mug, so I decided to move those spots a little bit more forward so we could see it. So you're going to see it like that. There we go. Yay, look how cute. All right, super cute, but it still needs a little bit more color, so I'm going to add a little pink colors, and then I'm going to turn everything off except for the color and potentially the roughness. Add a black mask, and let's go ahead and paint in the ears. Move that layer down so the black is on top, and then I can paint a little bit of a little bit of pink for the ears. And of course, I'm going to do a little blush for the cat. Going to grab a soft brush and paint it in. The design is a little lopsided, but that's okay. I think it kind of adds to the personality of the mug. So instead of being so perfectly aligned as if it was manufactured, this actually looks like it's handmade, which it kind of is. All right, let's go ahead and save this. All right, I feel like I'm ready. Let's go ahead and export those textures. Make sure you place it somewhere that you can find it, which for me is going to be the source images. Select that folder. PNGs are great. I don't really need height, and I also don't need emissiveness, so I can turn those off, and there we go. Let's bring back my low poly model, and up at the top there is a Substance Painter plugin that you can just quickly go to your source image, grab those textures, and apply. It makes a new AI standard surface shader, which I go ahead and assign. Press the number 6 on your keyboard, and there you go. That's how quickly you can get it done. This is going to be for the actual coffee itself. Again, it could be any fluid you want, and I'm going to call this a coffee shader and just make sure that it's a nice deep brown. And also, I want to make sure it is semi-transparent since you should be able to see it. So I'm going to scroll down to transmission and change that color as well, make it a little lighter so we can see through it. And now I have a little bit of coffee. Let's add a physical sky just to make sure everything is rendering correctly. And let's take a look. There it is, so cute. All right, let's create a quick little lighting setup. I'm going to create a curvature. I'm going to create a curve, make sure that it looks like an infinity curve, and fix my vertices to make sure it's nice and smooth. Then I flatten out the edges by scaling. Next, I am going to duplicate it to the other side, and then I'm going to loft, which is a great way to get an infinity curve. Reverse the background so it's nice and gray, and then I'm going to assign a shader, which is going to be a light blue. I feel like the light blue would be a nice backdrop to my somewhat warm mug. The color of the mug's a little warm. It's a little bit yellow. And I'm going to create a camera, look through it, see what angle I want it to be. I'm going to change the aspect ratio to 1024 by 1024 so it's a nice square. And make sure you turn on the resolution gate. So now I have my render camera where I'm going to be looking at the mug and creating my lighting setup for it. Now I'm using a traditional lighting setup. So what I'm going to be doing is through the perspective window, I'm going to create my own light set. So I'm going to go to Arnold Lights, and I'm going to use area lights. And a typical photography setup is that there's a light on the left, a light on the right, and then the light at the top. So I'm going to be creating that type of light system. If you want more on how to create this, I have a video tutorial on it. I also encourage you guys to just create one lighting setup like this and have a Maya file on it. So anytime you have your model, you're done. Instead of recreating this lighting setup, you could just import it in, which I think would be like really easy and really nice. So I'm going to be increasing my intensity of my lights I'm also going to be looking at the two panels through perspective as well as through the camera, and then I can see what's going on. So again, increase the intensity of the lights because they are really dark, and I want to make sure my lighting pops. And that's kind of like it looks like in perspective, and this is what it looks like right now. And then after that, you just kind of move the lights a little bit more forward to make sure it's lighting it how I want it to light and capture. Move everything forward, and again, it's all about the color. There you go, that looks better, as well as the intensity. And I'm gonna lighten the background because it's a little bit too powerful. The focus should be on the cat mug. Now there is a really great tool in Maya called the light editor, and you can change the color of your lights on the fly. So you can see that instead of selecting every single light and open up the attributes, I can use this editor to change the color, to change the intensity, to change the samples, and right there is really, really helpful. And you can see that's how I get this render. Cute. It's almost done. So now I'm going to increase, to get a better quality render, I'm going to increase my camera AA, my diffuse, specular, and transmission, my samples of all my 3 lights, and increase the lighting just a little bit more to make sure that it is nice and bright, and then render it out. Ta-da! Just like that, we get a cat cafe. But we're not done yet. Let's go ahead and do a little bit of post because it always looks nice if we make some tweaks in Photoshop. All right, bring it into Photoshop. The first thing I like to do is create some curves. So select that, create some curves. And one of the things I like to do is just kind of create a little bit of an S-curve, which increases the contrast. And then after that, I am going to add another curve, which I am going to make it a little bit more bluish and reduce kind of, again, a little bit of an S-curve so it brings out the blues, and work from there. And then comes the fun part, which is adding steam. I'm going to be adding steam to this, so I'm going to copy a steam image, and then I'm going to use lighten to remove it, and then I'm going to reduce the opacity so that it looks really nice and like a nice cup of mug. Now this looks a little too strong, so I reduce the opacity, and that is how I get this final cat render. Well, hopefully you guys liked this video. Hopefully you learned a thing or two. If you did, please like and subscribe. That is your message to me, letting me know that you like this content and that you want to see more. Please share my videos. If you find that an artist wants to learn how to make a cute little cat mug, then please share my videos. That would be amazing. That would help me out and encourages me to create more content like this. Take a look at academicphoenixplus.com. There you will find free resources such as free 3D models, ebooks, videos, and so much more. So take a look at academicphoenixplus.com. Thank you again for watching. I really appreciate it. Keep creating, and I will see you next time for another really cute video tutorial.